is continuing to procrastinate studying for this midterm that he has coming up for the chemistry class. And as I've said, he's continuing to blame everyone around him for him not studying. Like, oh, John, my roommate, oh, he's not cleaning, so I gotta clean. And John's like, that never bothered you before. So John's like, clapping back, basically saying like, like, who are you gonna blame when you fail out of college? He says, Heather, me, your mom, who are you gonna blame? So he just keeps going with that. And, I think Matt is like frustrated. And then he basically like walks away to go like study. So he's, not too happy right now. But I think he'll come to his realization on that one. In the next scene, Eric and Annie are like working on reviewing the private school for Ruthie, and they're basically deciding like what are the options, can we afford it, is there like a scholarship, is there like financial aid for this, like what's the deal. So they're trying to figure that out, and then it goes to Mary shooting hoops in the backyard, and the colonel asks her for a ride to get food, and he wants to go to the pool hall where she supposedly works. He's like, I want to see where you work. So I think he knows that like something happened and she's not working there anymore. And so she's going to give him a ride to the pool hall. So we'll see how that goes with the two of them. And Ruthie is acting like she's going to boarding school. Like she's like so upset by this idea of the private school. She's like, I have to leave my friends and all that. And she's like, they're sending me away to boarding school. And Lucy's like, what are you talking about? It's not boarding school. She's like, it might as well be because they're sending me away. And Lucy's like, this could be a great opportunity, basically. She's like, this means that you're doing great in school, and this could be like a great stepping stone for you. So she tries to like tell her that it could be a good thing. Then it flashes to Simon had told one of those two girls, Marie, that he was going to go to her party and he was going to bring Lucy with him. And he didn't really tell Lucy this. So she basically like storms in his bedroom and is like, hey, like, why didn't you tell me about this? Like, why are you just saying that I'm just going to go to this party, And apparently he's like afraid that if he didn't go, he wouldn't have this new friend anymore, which is so sad. Like, I feel like it shouldn't be like that. That's not a real friend. If you can't bring a certain person, they don't want you there. Like, that's kind of messed up. So I feel bad for Simon because that's something you learn when you're younger, but, it really shouldn't be like that, where they only want you there if this other person can come. That's kind of messed up. So basically, they're talking and I don't think that's his real friend, but Lucy is told that if she goes to this party, she'll be known as a social outcast. So she'll lose her popularity, and she may not get homecoming queen then. So this is like not great for her. I mean, I think it's kind of strange that one party would do that, and like, are these people really that weird? I don't know, but whatever. So Matt is studying, and he's obviously still not getting this whole chemistry thing. And he sees his professor at the library while he's studying. And he makes the decision to go talk to him about, his grade and basically telling the professor that he needs help, And the professor basically says that he'll help any student that asks him. Although he was kind of like mean in the beginning, so I don't know if that was just like to make him seem that way. But when Matt approached him, he's like, "Oh, I'll help any student that asks me for help." So he gives him like a practice test. He's like, "Come back to me tomorrow with what you still don't know, or if you don't understand it, and we'll go over it." So he's willing to help him, and the professor's like, "You're asking me like right before like the end of the term, basically." For help. And he's like, yeah, he's like, I was embarrassed to ask for help. And then the professor's basically like, there's nothing wrong with asking for help. And, that learning to ask for help is a big thing. And, it's a big part of life. So it's okay to ask for help, basically. So he's gonna help Matt, and hopefully Matt will be able to get good grades in the class and finish out with a better grade than a D or whatever it was that he had. And then it flashes to Mary, and she drove the Colonel to get food at the pool hall. She just parks, and the Colonel's like, it's been like a couple minutes, I guess. He's like, why aren't we going in? And she's like, she admits to him that she was fired from the pool hall. So I guess like they had to let somebody go, and she was like the last one to be hired. So I guess it wasn't really like firing, maybe like laying off, but like she didn't do anything necessarily wrong. It's just that she was there like the least amount of time, so they got rid of her. The Colonel like surprisingly doesn't give her a lecture, which everyone was shocked by. And he doesn't tell her parents either, which was another shocking thing. And as I'm watching, I'm thinking like this actor that plays the Colonel has like a distinctive voice, and I also feel like he's like definitely been in things like other movies, other TV shows. Like he's probably like pretty famous. So I looked him up, and Peter Graves. So he was in Airplane, the Mission Impossible TV show. He's been in, like, I looked it up, he's been in over like 70 TV shows and movies, and some of them were like broadening from like the 60s to now. So like this guy was in a lot of stuff. So this could have been like part of his later career because he was like obviously older for this, but yeah, pretty famous. So I always like looking into, you know, specific actors to see like what else they're from. It can be annoying sometimes, but I like to do that and, you know, look up every single thing they ever done. Just find out, oh, they're from this show. I know them from this show. But unfortunately, I haven't seen the things that Peter Graves has been in, but I just feel like he had to have been famous. I just felt that way. So anyway, just a little side note on the actor that plays the Colonel. And basically, Mary asks the Colonel for a loan, but he says no. He says, no, I can't do that. And he wants to help her get her life together, but only if she goes to college. Like, he wants to encourage her to, like, get it together, go to college, you know? And she's basically saying, like, all I need is money, and he's basically saying, okay, like, I can get you a job as a cashier at this place that my friend works at. And she's like, no, I just need money right now. I don't need this, like, she's like, I don't want to be a cashier. So she's not really, like, he's trying to help her, but she's not really feeling, like, what he wants to do, I guess. Like, he is trying, like, I mean, you'd have a job, but she just doesn't want to do that, I guess. So she's being a little particular about how she's going to be making her money, which when you're first starting out in the workplace, like, the workforce, I feel like you can't be that picky. You just got to make some money, you know, and you build up to different career paths. But she's, you know, 18, 19, so she's just realizing all of this. So anyway, she says no to the whole cashier thing, and she basically storms out and is saying, like, all I need is money. So she's frustrated. It goes back to Matt and John, and he's apologizing to John for blaming, like, his problems on him. And he's like, you're right. He's like, my professor's going to help me, you know. So they kind of put things to rest, and they're okay. And, you know, he's realizing that he's got to take ownership for his own studies and everything. And John's like, all right, like, at least he apologized, you know. So they're good. And flashes to the Colonel again. And he's giving Ruthie advice on, again, he's doing his war analogies. And he's giving Ruthie advice on when he went to, like, the Marine training and how he's like, there's no way I can complete this. But then he's like, I just took it day by day. That's all you can do. That's all you can do is take it day by day. And I totally agree with that. I say that a lot too, like, just one day at a time, you know. Sometimes when things are rough or it looks overwhelming, just one day at a time, you know. So he tells Ruthie, like, when you get to a new school, take it one day at a time. You know, make new friends, get involved, but you don't have to, it doesn't have to be overwhelming, you know, just one thing at a time. So I think that was good advice. And then she's more excited for this new school, which is great. And then there's a scene with the Colonel and Eric and Annie, and he's trying to pay for the private school for Ruthie, so he wants to pay for it, but Annie tells him, like, hey, she actually got a full scholarship. So I guess, like, her grades were good, or they thought she was smart enough to, like, get a full scholarship to this private school. So he doesn't have to pay for that, but he's, like, basically saying, whenever, if you ever need anything like that, like, let me know. So they're like, thanks. I think he basically heads out after that, and they could kind of tell that, like, he was there to try to help with Mary, and he kind of admits it a little bit, and then Annie's like, she'll come around eventually. Right now, she just doesn't really want to go to college, so basically they're trying to give her some time to figure it all out. And he still doesn't tell them about her getting fired. And she has not yet told them either, so they do not know. And Lucy goes up to Simon and tells him that she's agreeing to go to this party. She says, I don't care, like, what it does for my homecoming status or whatever, but she said, like, if it's between that and you, like, I'll choose you. So she's choosing to go to this party to, I guess, help Simon make friends or whatever. So even though she'll be a social outcast because of it, which I still don't understand. But anyway, she's going to do it anyway. So that's a nice thing to do. But I still don't think Simon should be friends with this person, these people. I don't know. They're not really real friends, but she's trying to help, so that's nice. And then we find out that in the next scene that Annie aced her test that she's been studying for the whole episode, so good for her. And she, like, thanks Eric because he's been picking up slack around the house the whole time, dancing in the kitchen, you know, big things. So he's been taking over a lot of the household stuff, so she's like, thank you, you know, for making me take the time to study, and you handling, like, you know, the cooking, cleaning, and also the twins, because they're, like, I don't know, like a year old maybe a few months, I'm not sure. So she's been able to actually, like, concentrate, and he's been taking care of that, so that was nice. And Ruthie tours the new school, and they have horses, so they do a whole equestrian program there, which is great. And the lady, like, I guess, I don't know if she just does the tours at the school, but she tells them that, like, there's no homework. She's like, they do enough at school, they don't need homework. I'm like, is there a school like this? Because I've never seen one. And kind of weird. And then she also said there's flexible hours for the students. She's like, they can come in at 10 and leave at 5. As long as it's 7 hours, they can come whenever they want. I'm like, what? Anyway, private schools. I can't relate. Sorry. And then at the end, Ruthie agrees that she wants to go to school there. And obviously she already has a scholarship, so that'll be good. But this seems like some sort of dream school because there's a lot of things I've never heard of at a school. So crazy. But good for Ruthie. And then the episode basically ends with Mary arguing on the phone at home with the insurance company, the car insurance company. And because they're trying to cancel her policy because she hasn't paid. So she's like shouting at them on the phone. And she's super stressed out. And she's like, please don't cancel. She's like, I need to drive my car. I can't get a job if I don't have car insurance, you know, because I can't drive there. And she's like, no car, or like no driving, no job, basically. So she's freaking out. And the episode just ends. So that's the end of this episode. And I'm feeling real bad for Mary right now. She's really going through it. And I think a lot of us can relate to that. I guess my conclusion on this episode is, as I've said earlier, I don't agree with the whole, and this was like part of that time period, I think it was like late 90s, early 2000s, where they were really hounding down on the go to college, go to college, go to college thing, and they really hounded it in this episode. And like, I get it in some aspects, but like, I feel like if they would have shown other options, that would have been great. I mean, maybe they will later on for Mary, I don't know. I don't really remember exactly what she ends up doing, but like with her career, you know, they should have shown that like that's not really the only path. They should have shown like multiple different paths. So I guess like this thing with Mary is a little bit of showing that, but also, you know, it wasn't looking good for her in this episode, so they didn't really show a very like great outcome for her right now. There's just so many paths you can take in life. So, there's trade schools, there's all different things. So it's like, I don't know. I just feel like that was a little too much. College, for my opinion. But anyway, besides that, I would say that was my first time seeing the Colonel in an episode in a really long time. Because I haven't watched the show in a long time. So it was interesting to see him. I'm wondering why Eric's mom wasn't there. But whatever. I mean, because they mention her. They're like, oh, she's at home. But, like, she just wasn't there. So I guess, like, they didn't think it made sense. But it's just kind of interesting how, like, the grandparents just pop in here, like, just whenever. So it's kind of funny. The Colonel is, I'm not too sure. He's kind of intense at scenes, but then unexpected at other scenes, I guess. So I don't really know what to make of him. Like, he seems like, I mean, obviously he was in the Marines, so he's very, like, this is the way we should do things, and very structured, and I'm sure that's how Eric in the show would have grown up or whatever, but I'm just not sure how I feel about him yet. But obviously, he's a very well-known actor. I think that the asking for help thing was great, for Matt. I think that's a great lesson. I think that a lot of people don't know when to ask for help, and they feel ashamed asking for help, but there's never anything wrong with asking for help when you need it, or if you don't understand something. It's okay to ask questions, and I think that's a great message, especially for younger people that are still figuring that out. And so I think that was great, and I liked the whole Annie studying for the test and Eric helping out around the house. I think it shows, like, a true partnership of if one person's doing more things and, taking on more things, like, the other one's there to pick up the slack or help out and, like, encourage you to go after what you want to do. So I think that was great. So there were a couple different, messages in here that I thought were good. It was interesting to see everyone older and coming into their own, like Simon in high school. I think he'll eventually figure it out. I do think he struggles for a bit in the show, but I mean, it was interesting to see everybody. I'm interested to see what Mary does next. I'm interested to see if she does go to college, if she doesn't go to college, what her career path looks like. I kind of think, a little bit of a spoiler alert on this, I think she ends up, like, living with the Colonel eventually. So I wonder if this was, like, a lead into that, because I think she ends up, like, I don't know where he lives. I don't remember if it's, like, not near them or if it's maybe on the other side of the country, like New York or something, but I think she ends up, like, living with him and the grandmother for a while. So I don't know if it's just to get things together or, like, what, but that eventually happens. So maybe I'll look at a later episode eventually and we can watch some of that to find out, like, what's going on with her. But it was, like, an interesting transition into that eventually. So we'll see what happens, but it seems like, everyone's kind of coming into their own. Lucy's very sociable and popular. Simon's figuring things out. Ruthie's really smart. Matt is in medical school, or eventually going to be in medical school, because he does become a doctor. Spoiler alert on that one. So yeah, Matt does become a doctor, and Sam and David are too young to tell. I don't know what's going to happen with them. But I think soon I'll do another episode of this. If you guys like this, let me know. If you enjoy the Seventh Heaven episodes. Toad left halfway through. He was over it. But that's okay. He was here for part of the episode. I'll take it. Yeah, I mean, I'm really anxious to hear, like, what you guys think. If you liked, this episode, if you want to see different episodes, if you want to see any movies from me, movie reviews. I like doing the Freddy vs. Jason one, so let me know if you want to see that. Like, subscribe, comment. I'm glad you guys could come along with me on this journey, and I'll see you guys in the next one.